Good morning. Thank you everyone for coming to our first employment webinar during the month of October. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and this year it marks the 75th anniversary. It is also the 30th year anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act from 1990, which are two very important milestones for employment for people with disabilities. So thank you very much for being here. In honor of this, our Employment First Business Advisory Committee has organized a series of webinars throughout the month that are going to be focused on employment. So we'll speak about different employment topics throughout the month. And the webinars will take place every Wednesday at starting at 10 a.m. So our next webinar will be Navigating Challenging Situations in the Workplace, will take place next week on October 14th. After that, during the third week, we're going to have virtual interview tips for success, which will take place October 21st. And on October 28th, we're going to develop a one-page profile for employment search. So we hope that you join us for this as well. And we really hope that you find these workshops helpful. These workshops are meant to be helpful for you as you start your employment search during the current times. So I hope that you enjoy this webinar. So for today's topic, we're going to be focused on a panel of service providers addressing employment supports during COVID-19. And we have three wonderful service providers that have joined us today that have a lot of experience with providing employment supports prior to the pandemic, and also have continued to provide employment supports during the pandemic. So we're going to get to know them, and they're going to be able to provide us with some valuable information. During the first half of the webinar, our guest speakers will answer a few frequently asked questions. And after this, it will be open up to the audience so that you may be able to ask any questions that you have related to this topic. So let's get started. One of our first speakers, her name is Gaganjot Kaur. So Gaganjot works with PathPoint. Gaganjot, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, as you know, my name is Gaganjot, and I'm the Program Service Coordinator at PathPoint. And my main responsibility is that I serve as a liaison with representatives from funding agencies such as regional centers and Department of Rehabilitation. And I work with families and other service providers, and also government agencies such as Social Security. And I work in the employment sector at PathPoint, and mainly for West LA area. So I have a lot of insight on, what the employment is looking like now during what was before pre-COVID and after COVID. And we're still here serving our, individuals. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Gaganjot. We're happy to have you. Thank you so much. I'm going to introduce our next speaker. His name is Renee Jackson, and he works for ECF, which is Exceptional Children's Foundation. Renee, could you please introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Renee Jackson, and I'm a custodial manager at the West Los Angeles Federal Building. And on behalf of ECF, the Exceptional Children's Foundation, I want to say thank you for having me.
Thank you, Renee. Welcome. We're happy to have you. Our next speaker is Pamela Arturi. She works with Easter Seals. Pam, could you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Liddy. As Liddy said, my name is Pamela Arturi, and I work for Easter Seals Southern California. I oversee our employment services, our workforce division in LA County, as well as our transition age youth project in Orange County currently, and oversee our services through Department of Rehab in LA County for direct placement, and also supported employment and customized employment through the regional center. And I'm happy to be here today. Thank
you, Pam. Thank you all for being here. So we'll get started with the first question that we have for our panelists. It's in regarding supports during that pandemic. So if you could please let us know, in what ways are employment supports different during COVID-19? Please describe how employment support services look like during COVID-19, and any shift you have seen within your agency delivering services. So Gaganjot, could you please provide us with this information?
Yes, thank you for the question, Letty. Okay, so our job support has been open since even before pre-COVID. Our job coaches have been and then they're in person providing support. Of course, it has changed since COVID hit, which was in March. Our coaches have to be very mindful on what's happening in the store because they are required to wear a mask, a face shield, or gloves, but they're not able to just go in and be close to them because they have to have a 6 feet apart. They have to maintain that to CDC guidelines. Now, the stores also are, most of the grocery stores were open, and our coaches were there diligently every day, whoever they were supporting, because our individuals were also struggling with this new change that was happening, and we were there to provide that support. Now, another thing is that we also had alternative services, which means that some of these individuals were actually furloughed from their jobs, such as retail jobs, and where they could not be in person, and they were anxious about that. So we were able to provide support over the phone and figure out what was happening with their job, and having them be relaxed about this, because COVID is such a big thing, I mean, it has carried over on till now. We don't know when it's going to end, but jobs have definitely changed, and I do want to bring that up, that our for example, a participant who is a courtesy clerk, who is, was only collecting cards and helping and doing bagging groceries, now has to actually sanitize cards. Every time a customer actually gives their card, they have to sanitize that. And that's a new task that's been added, which is really overwhelming, because it's not they're having a one grocery cart, it's about 10, 20, depending on what their shift is. So that's what the job is looking like. And in our agency, we have provided our coaches with, PPE to make sure they're also safe with this pandemic, and feel like they're also supported from PathPoint. So I hope I answered that question. And if there's any more questions, please feel free to, have it later on. So that's it for here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gagana. Yes, definitely you answered that question. And thank you for giving us that valuable insight, because things have changed definitely for employment during the pandemic. So thank you so much. Renee, could you please provide us some information on this question as well?
In support services, they had to be creative and utilize like social media, Zoom, Facebook, places, avenues such as that. But that's not what we do here at the federal building. I manage 14 developmentally disabled custodians, and we've been working every day, because in our facility, we have roughly 2,200 people, houses, the FBI, United States Passport Office, 6 floors are occupied by the Veterans Affairs, and we have general services, there's a credit union. So what we've had to do during the pandemic is increase our levels of service, and that's like in the passport and the Veterans Affairs public areas, in the FBI and the general services reception areas, in high utilized offices such as the credit union, the nurses station, all the lobby areas. And we've had to increase like the automatic sanitizer dispensers. We've kind of increased the automatic paper towel dispensers. Our services, where normally the staff, always wears like personal protective equipment, PPE, such as gloves, non-skid shoes. Now it's like the gloves, non-skid shoes, face shields, the cotton, the paper, cloth, all the different sort of face masks. And it's kind of difficult on some of my employees because to have like a cotton face mask on while you're performing physical jobs like cleaning restrooms, buffing floors, or vacuuming or something. And, you know, it's uncomfortable, but fortunately I have a crew of people who they never complain. I mean, my developmentally disabled staff, I'll put them up against anybody and we'll like, you know, outperform. They're wonderful to work with. And I have like 3 excellent job coaches who assist me with this. And we've been kind of like just taking care of our business in this facility ever since the pandemic started. And actually we've increased and improved the service due to the needs of the people we service.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for everything that you do to provide support to people with developmental disabilities. So it sounds like similar to what Gaganjot was saying, that there has been additional components that have been added to the work, and also different types of measures such as wearing PPE and ensuring that all of that is in compliance. Thank you so much, Renee. And Pam, would you be able to also share some information about what you've seen within your agency?
Sure. So, you know, similar things that the other folks on the panel have shared as far as how we're doing business differently, providing services differently with the pandemic. We have shifted to a combination of remote and in-person services. We have had individuals whom we job coach who have been working throughout this pandemic. We've seen a lot of folks who have jobs who are essential workers are working, they have been working, they're dependable. We saw individuals who were essential workers who might not have had as many hours prior were actually given more hours and proved that they were dependable in the workforce, and showed that to their coworkers and their employers. For supported employment, job development, traditional job development, we have been providing support remotely through screen sharing, Zoom, other types of platforms, FaceTime, to either do things virtually via the internet, whether it is completing applications or contacting employers, going over resumes and profiles and things like that together, to our customized employment service, where we have been able to engage in remote discovery and exploration through FaceTime, Zoom, and other platforms to do virtual home visits and interviews and community neighborhood mapping. If we are providing services in person, we are going out, we have a safety checklist and protocols. We also have safety equipment packs that have been provided to all of our departments and participants. So if people are out in the community, of course, they're following the state and local county city guidelines, but we have masks and hand sanitizer and shields and all of those things if people are comfortable with in-person service. And we've just seen that we can really do the work differently. And we found out some things that we didn't know before, that we could provide support remotely if needed. Some people actually prefer the remote support right now because they still have concerns about being out in the pandemic. So it's allowed us to be more flexible to meet people's needs. But services, yeah, we've continued to provide services. We're just doing it a little bit differently and seeing a lot of the same things that the other providers are.
Thank you so much, Pam. Thank you also for everything that you and your agency do for people with disabilities. So it sounds like there have been shifts, also that services are being provided which could look in the way that remote services are provided virtually through FaceTime, through Zoom, to be able to meet the individual's needs as preferred, to ensure that everybody that chooses to work is comfortable working, and it's able to decide what type so thank you so much for that. We will move on to our second question. So our second core question that we have is related to the employment landscape during the current pandemic. Please describe the changes you have seen in types of employment opportunities that are available. What advice would you give someone that is starting their job search during the current pandemics? So we have some people that are considering starting a job search. Maybe they have exited high school or are thinking about the future. What advice would you give to them now, given your experience and what you've seen? So Gaganjot, if you could please share a little bit about this with us.
Yes, so the employment landscape has definitely changed during this pandemic. There's a lot, excuse me. There are a lot of jobs that are not really available or hiring. So, I mean, what we have seen is that we have Amazon, who is hiring a lot because their demand has gone high because people are ordering stuff online. And so they need workers who need to be at Amazon. And then grocery stores, their demand has of course also gone high because people are going and shopping and they need more people who need to stock up the shelves. So we have like somebody who wants to stock, and then also grocery bags. I believe some of the grocery stores, of course, are not hiring for somebody like Trader Joe's. I know that they were not hiring for somebody to do the grocery bags because they want people, they are grossing the bags themselves, the cashiers, but they don't have anybody else standing by there because they want to make sure they have 6 feet apart. And home improvement stores have recently started hiring, Lowe's and Home Depot. A lot of retail stores have now started hiring. Before when we had the stay-home orders, we didn't have a lot of openings at retail stores, but now they need some seasonal people, so they are hiring now. But we believe also there's a possibility hiring freeze depending on where they want to work. For example, some hospitals, I don't know if and somebody else here among the panelists have they might have luck with that, but I don't know about hospitals. We didn't have any luck in having somebody hired at the hospital. Now, my only advice to people who are looking for a job during this pandemic is that you have to be really honest to yourself and open of what you are comfortable with, because even if you look for a job outside, you have the chance of getting exposed. But, are you able to follow safety procedures, wearing a mask and gloves and face shield? And also know that the jobs that you felt like that was your dream job, like the pre-COVID times, it probably might be not available, like some maybe working at a big, like at a gym or a restaurant. So that's my only advice, just to be open with yourself and honest. What do you feel is best for you? So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. That's great advice. It's a good reminder to be honest with ourselves and look at the goals that we want to accomplish during the current times. It does sound like there are some retail locations that have increased their hiring practices, so that's good to know. Thank you so much, Gaganjot. And Renee, could you also share some information about this topic with us, please?
Yes, I would give advice for you to look in the service sector, things like custodial work, what we do here. There's an increase in demand because everybody wants everything clean and tidy now, sanitized. And I would also give you some advice to look into the call center customer service, just like Gaganjot said. Places like Amazon, FedEx, UPS, everybody's buying online, and there's a high need for call center staff to answer the phones. you know, and resolve like issues and complaints that people have. Good place to start would probably be Indeed.com, and you just type, you know, the job you're looking for and what city you're in, and you search around. I would like, you know, encourage you to make a decent looking resume. Now, if you need help with any of that kind of stuff, you can call the Exceptional Children's Foundation. We have a lot of programs where we can help you with resumes, job search, all of that. I had to put my plug in there. Okay.
Thank you, Renee. So you also bring up very good points to looking at the different sectors and working on a resume and looking at kind of like what's available during the current times. Thank you so much. So Pam, could you also please share some information from your point of view?
Sure, I'd be happy to. As the other panelists have mentioned, the landscape has definitely changed for employment. And I'm sure that everybody on this call who is working has seen that their own jobs have shifted and the way that they do work. So we've obviously seen a lot more remote work options for people. And we've actually had some job seekers consider remote work where they had not before and maybe see it as something that's preferable now. So we're seeing a lot of options for people to work remotely, whether that's in technology, you know, tech corporations, computers, tech assistants. You know, businesses are having to do a lot more remotely, so they're needing to increase their ability to do that, whether that means different platforms or people who can address some of the issues that come up. So if there's someone who has a particular interest in technology or has computer skills, you know, there are definitely options for those folks. Same as Renee had mentioned with customer service, call centers, and of course those essential jobs that people have mentioned, like, you know, UPS, grocery, Amazon, FedEx. We've also seen creation of new jobs since the pandemic, like contract tracing and other jobs that are healthcare related directly to the pandemic and needing to track information and get information out. Of course, with the upcoming election, we've seen a lot of jobs generated too, right? Because of that. Also, businesses are doing things differently. They have to. So businesses need additional equipment. They need protective equipment. They need masks. They need sanitation. They need additional cleaning that has been mentioned. Curbside delivery, which means that businesses also need to get the word out. So they need either additional marketing, they need additional signage. Restaurants might need to print menus that are different. So there are a lot of other things that have come out of the pandemic that are related to a business need that also are related to a job that somebody could do because of the printing and distributing information and whatnot. Masks. I'm sure people know people who have started making masks and have maybe even put them on an Etsy or started selling them that way. So there are other products related to the pandemic that are an employment opportunity. We've also seen where there have been some shortages. You might recall we had like a flour shortage and a baked goods and pasta shortage. Somebody could use that opportunity for a small business or a micro enterprise to create a supply or service related to the pandemic. I was just interacting with a business last week, a local market in Culver City that is an Italian market, and they said that during the pandemic they had customers coming in for pasta and they had never seen those customers before because the pasta wasn't available in their local grocery store. So that's just one example of how the business need and the supply chain has shifted with the pandemic. So we've seen a lot of the same things. And yes, of course, people unfortunately were furloughed, or some people had lost their jobs or have been laid off due to the pandemic, but we've also seen the creation of new jobs. And so we're trying to be positive and focus on that so that we can help people still maintain their employment, search their goals, and continue to work through this.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Pam. You bring up a lot of good points as well. So with that pandemic, we've all seen a lot of shifts in the way that we work. And a lot of the things that we have also seen is there's been a lot of like a change in direction, the type of work that we do. Like a lot of the office work has gone to remote work. There's also has been a lot of increase in different types of employments available, like Pam was saying. Um, that's a great story about the pasta. So thinking about creative ways of how you can fulfill a current need that's emerged from the pandemic, it's another good point. So there are options available. If you are considering working or starting a job search during the next few months, there are different options that can be available to you. And we have, at Westside, we have a lot of different service providers that can help you with that as well, to help you reach your goals. So with that, we'll move on to our third core question, which we'll talk a little bit about new barriers and obstacles. What are some common barriers or obstacles that you have seen workers encounter in the workplace during the current times, and how were these overcome? So Gagendra, if you can please share with us some information on this topic.
Yes. So the new obstacles, of course, we have seen with our individuals, is that they didn't have to wear a mask before or gloves before pre-COVID. That was a big obstacle, to have them actually having a mask, wearing a mask and gloves for their whole entire shift. Which could have been a big, an issue for them, because they're not used to having this, and actually keeping the mask on for the whole shift was a big thing, because somebody would have their mask over here or here. Oh, I just want to take a breather. But, it's just that other people who are in the store would feel uncomfortable, because we have, if our individual is going through some issue like that. So how we were able to overcome this was we increased intervention for the individuals who were struggling in person of wearing a mask, and explaining them what the safety procedures is all about and why we need to wear this mask. It's to protect others. So that was our biggest obstacle that we had seen. And also long hours. I mean, their shift now has increased. Before they were working a 4-hour day and they were okay with that. Now they have to work a 7-hour day. And that was another obstacle for them, because they could not, they weren't, being able to understand that why is that they are providing more service and the others are not. So we had to, of course, increase our intervention to just be there more often, be with them and explain them what's going on. And also task, because they had different tasks now, which were added onto their plate. And those tasks needed to be learned and had to be done correctly. One thing we did see with our individuals is that they were flexible with this. I mean, some of them were very like, okay, you know what, we know this, we have to do it. And flexibility really counted, and employers saw that. And I would like to give you an example. And one person, an individual who has not taken one sick day from work since COVID started, and he is working and he is enjoying that. And he said, I'm here because I want to support my workplace. I don't want to be out calling sick. And diligently shows up every time to his work, and actually vouched for that. If you have more work for me, more hours, I'm willing to take it. So we have some individuals who are like that, who actually want to really be out there and help these businesses. And another thing is some of them had limitations in hours because for example, when retail was about to be closing, they had limitations in hours, which was really, really hard to, have them think that, just kind of have them go over their anxiety that everything will be okay. So that's what it looks like on PathPoint side. So thank you.
Thank you, Gaganjot. No, that's definitely a lot of good information to know about. There's definitely been some obstacles, but there's also has been. I'm happy to hear there's been some positive that has come out of it as well, as you've seen a lot of dedication. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Renee, could you also please share some information on this topic with us?
Yes, we had to like change the work schedules for our crew because the majority of our staff starts at 6 a.m. But with like the social distancing, we had to stagger breaks and lunch. So, you know, instead of everybody coming down at break for 9 o'clock, now we have some people break at 8 o'clock, some people break at 9 o'clock, you know, the 3 separate lunch times. And we had to reconfigure our break room for social distancing purposes. So where we would have like 13, 14 people in the break room at lunch or on breaks, now with the 6-foot separation, we can put 7 people in there. And that was like kind of like, you know, we had some people want to be on lunch or break with other people, you know, who they're closer to. So they had to kind of go through the hardship of that, where, well, you know, somebody has to be on the alternative shift. And, you know, my crew, they don't complain about that. We also had to like implement daily temperature checks. We take everybody's temperature when they get to work and we record it. And the entire unit back in May was tested for COVID because with like the West Coast headquarters for the FBI in our facility, law enforcement is not gonna close. And I would imagine they have maybe 1,300 people who work up there. You're gonna have some cases, and there have been positive tests coming, you know, out of the building. Passport, they have people come in there from around the world. They've gone to like appointment only, and they have they do temperature checks for people who come visit them. They've installed extra sanitizing machines, but you know, it's not just overflowing like it has always been. Like I said earlier, we have more emphasis on detail cleaning, you know, especially in the high public traffic areas. And then we've had to like do additional shifts, changes and assignment based on public transportation for some of our staff that catch the bus. You know, many of the bus routes went on weekend schedule and they couldn't possibly get here, you know, at 6 in the morning. It would be like either get here at 5:15 or get here 6:15. And the hardship on those employees being dedicated like they are, they come in with a mental approach that I'm behind because everybody else is here working. So we kind of deal with them. Like I said, I have wonderful job coaches who like get with the staff, and I have the best working crew of janitors on the planet. So we're good.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing that. So it also sounds like you've also encountered some changes also in the way that things are being run or worked in within the area that you work in. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Pam, would you also be able to share some information of what you've seen on this topic?
Sure. And I'm glad that Renee mentioned transportation because that's been a huge barrier. I mean, for a lot of people, but especially, you know, a lot of the people whom we support have relied on public transportation access, you know, and that's been a real barrier because there has not been that availability. And we've been, you know, wanting to see how we can address that. Although, you know, we're getting creative. People are finding a way to get to work, to access the services that they need. But the transportation has definitely been an issue that we've had to problem solve, as well as anyone who either needs technology or equipment to do their job or to participate in job development. Not everybody has that access, not only if they haven't had to use it before or they don't own it. We all know there are also some disparity issues around access to internet and equipment and funding for that. So we've been problem solving that either through our funders and our own agency resources for individuals to access those things, to be able to do their jobs remotely. Well, obviously we've seen some issues with people having access to PPE or masks or supplies. And of course, the State Council and the regional centers have done an excellent job with donating those things and getting them out to people. And we've been doing it as an agency, but we see that, people still have a real need to, keep up with their masks and their safety supplies on the job. Of course, the job should be providing that to people who are essential workers, but we find that, folks go through that pretty quickly. So that's also been a challenge. And as Gaganjot said, also just making sure that people are aware of the proper way to wear their masks and supplies, and making sure that they're not putting themselves at risk or people with whom they live, because many of the people whom we support live with other family members that might be in high-risk groups. So that's been something for them to consider in either the way that they go about work or even maintaining work. We had a couple of people who work in essential jobs who, thankfully, we have a good relationship with the employers who are keeping their jobs on hold, but they decided not to work for a period of time because they don't want to expose their family members with whom they live. So that's obviously been another barrier for folks, as well as just the whole mental health aspect of the pandemic. It's hard for everybody to deal with this right now. So we've really been focusing on some mental health resources, mindfulness, having some options available for people and suggestions and tips so that people can do their best to cope and get through this, and just continual education about the pandemic and safety procedures. But those are some of the major barriers that we've seen, and we're just trying to do the best that we can to address them all.
Thank you. You all bring a lot of very good points. A lot of things to consider when deciding to work during the current times, ranging from issues from transportation, how are you going to get to your job, PPE, how are you going to, usually employers should be able to provide PPE to you. But like Pam said, sometimes that might, be a concern. Our service providers are able to luckily help you navigate that situation if you do decide to work during the current times. Also, with the regional center, with the service coordinators, they can also help you think about different barriers or come up with solutions of challenges based on your individual needs. So really thank you all for giving us this valuable information. And I'm gonna address Megan to see if there's any questions that came up in the QA box.
So we haven't received any questions yet, but I would like to invite all of the attendees, if you are interested in asking a question to the panelists. There are I remind you the 2 ways that you're able to ask questions. If you hover over your screen and down at the bottom, you'll see 2 little chat bubbles, and it'll say Q&A, and you can type a question in there if you have a question for the panelists. And then I will see them and we can read them for the panelists to hear. Or another option is you can go click on the participants button and click the raise hand feature. And if you raise your hand, we can ask you to come and join our panelists live, and you can ask your question live. So I'll just give a couple seconds to give a few folks any time. If there's anyone who wants to raise their hand and join us in the conversation, please do so now. And if we don't have any participation from the audience, we have a few more questions that we can ask our panelists ourselves. So just checking the question and answer box. Anyone yet, and no one raising their hand yet. So maybe we can go ahead and go on to one other general question we came up with, and then reminding the participants, if you'd like to interact, you're welcome to join us at any time. Oh, you know what? We actually just had someone raise their hand. I see Esther Kelsey.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Hi, Esther. Welcome.
How you doing? I wanted to know, what do you guys
Can you hear us, Esther? You're unmuted now if you wanna speak.
Okay. I wanted to know, what is the plan for Westside Regional Center?
No, we're not able to hear you. I'm not sure.
Hello?
I can hear Esther. I don't know about anybody else.
She asked what was the plan for the West Side Regional Center.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I must not have heard you because I'm wondering if she's on a different channel than I am of audio wise.
I couldn't hear either.
Renee, could you repeat the question again?
Well, I just heard the first part. She asked what was the plan for the West Side Regional Center. I don't know.
Esther, do you want to repeat your question and we'll let Megan know what you're asking?
Okay. I wanted to know, what do you guys have in, what is Westside having planned for the consumers when they come back?
Esther asked, what does Westside Regional Center have planned for the consumers when they come back?
So, well, Westside Regional Center remains open. So we are working remotely. We have sometimes where people are in our office part-time and you're able to access your service coordinator remotely. In terms of any on-site activities, you know, like I know that we have a lot of different groups and support groups and things like that that do happen at the regional center offices. And at this point, there is no current guidance from the state or the local ordinances that will allow us to have full capacity in our offices at this time. So we're just really following the Department of Public Health, the state guidance, and the local ordinances. But you know, we are in the process of developing re-entry plans, and we're trying to develop as many remote options for people. People can still receive in-person services. There are many service providers who are choosing to deliver in-person services. But some services are only being delivered remotely. So if you have questions regarding that, for everyone who's present, anyone who's here, that if you want to find out what service providers are delivering in-person services, you can always contact your service coordinator. Hopefully that answers the question that Esther was trying to get at.
Okay. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Megan.
And I see we have a question in the Q&A box. When is COVID-19 over? Such a great question, and one that really, I think, tugs at all of our heartstrings. We all are asking that probably every day. You know, I don't know if any of the panelists just want to share kind of, or empathize with this question as much as I do. We don't know when COVID-19 will be over at this point. I think we're all just wondering when, and hoping anytime soon that we'll all be able to get together in person.
Yeah, what a great question, right? I mean, I think we all, whomever asked that, I think we all feel you, and we're wanting to know the same thing. I know that for us, of course, things change daily, all the time, but we're hoping that by January, we'll be able to start to try to get things back to normal. I think that's sort of the ballpark target that everybody's talking lately is January, but of course we have to see, you know, the more that people are acting safely and doing what they need to do to keep themselves and other people safe, the sooner we're going to get through this thing. But yeah, I think we just need to keep checking in every day.
This is a life-changing event. It reminds me of like when 9/11 occurred. The day before 9/11 happened, I had caught a plane to San Diego from the Bay Area, and you just walk up to the gate, people can walk up with you, and it's like that next day after 9/11, we are where we are now. You know, you have to check in, nobody can go up to the gate with you. You go through the metal detectors, and on something like this, you know, this has forever changed our lives. People will pay more attention to social distancing, mask wearing, sanitizing, and after 9/11, I mean, after the COVID-19 pandemic is like over and we get somewhat back to normal, you know, I think like these Zoom type virtual events this is a part of us now. So, you know, it changes us in a good way with this. And remote working, you know, I saw where some of the Fortune 500 companies, they actually get better production from, you know, people working remote than in the office, and they found that out. So yeah, it's life changing, and I think we'll be better for it.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with what you all said. It's a very hard question to answer, but we are trying to be positive and looking forward to when it is somewhat back to normal. During the meantime, we'll do our best during this what a lot of term is being used as the new normal. So we're going to continue to do a lot of Zoom meetings, virtual meetings, to be able to connect with you, to be able to answer questions that you might have as things change daily with the current situations. And we'll try our best to continue open communication to be able to work on this together. We're all kind of working on this together. We hear you, we hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Okay, I see that there are a couple of individuals raising their hand. So Madeline Q, I'm gonna make it so that you're able to speak if you'd like to. I've actually unmuted you now, or I'm asking you to unmute if you'd like to. Oh, it shows she doesn't have audio. I don't know if that's gonna work. Let's see. Oh, okay. So she was in the individual that asked how long COVID-19 is on. So since we just tackled that one, I'm gonna see if Esther wants to ask her question. I'm gonna unmute Esther. Oh, Madeline, can you hear us now? Are you able to speak? Okay, we will come back. Madeline, I'm gonna move you back over, but if you'd like to try again in a little bit, you can just put your hand back up. Okay, and we'll bring Esther over. Esther, you're now unmuted.
Okay, I wanted to know, when are you guys gonna have, when is Westside gonna have their testing for the COVID-19?
Okay, I don't know if everyone can hear Esther. I can. Her question is when we're having the testing for COVID-19. Esther, actually, if when you're done, if you can go into your interpretation settings and make sure you've selected English and muting your original audio, that will enable it so that everybody can hear you, just for future reference. But I can hear you. And the answer to that question, unfortunately, the company that had offered to do it postponed, and they've not yet rescheduled with us. So we don't have an exact date at this point, but we will certainly let the community know as soon as that testing has been rescheduled. You know, if you or someone that you're, friends with, or someone in the community needs help accessing COVID-19 testing, there's definitely options out there. They should get in contact with their service coordinator to help locate a site that's closest to them. So if that's the case, we of course want to help out. We just unfortunately don't have a date for when we will be doing it at our facility. But
Okay,
thank you for asking that. Okay. So at this point, we don't have any further questions, and we don't have anyone with their hands raised. So I'm wondering, Liddy, do you want to just do maybe one more closing question? I see Madeline just put her hand up again. I'm wondering maybe if she's figured out how to talk, but let's try one more time. And if not, then we'll just do maybe one closing round question for everyone. And then I think we'll say farewell to everyone who's joined us today. Okay, Madeline, you should be able to speak now. I'm wondering if Madeline's audio must not be connected for some reason. So Madeline, if you have any other questions, you're welcome to write them in the chat, and we'll be able to address them. But we'll go ahead and turn it back over to Liddy. so that she can do a closing round question with all of our panelists.
Okay, thank you, Megan and Rhiannon. So we'll do one more question. This is related towards job coaching services. That it's a frequently asked question that comes up. So for the panelists, if you could please share some information about job coaching services. For example, how does this look like? How would a job coach be present during an interview? If I'm an individual and with a disability and I prefer not to have a job coach, what are my options for that? So Gagan, do you want to provide us with some information on job coaching services from your agency?
Yes, yes. So, so I want to mention that I work in the supported employment sector at PathPoint. So for us, job coaching is when an individual goes through, when they get placed at a position or wherever they're going to be working, we go with them for the first day of their work to ensure that everything is correct for them, and you know, if they have any issues, and we are there 100% with them for the whole shift. Now our coaching is funded for the first 6 months by Department of Rehabilitation. So they fund the coaching services, and the coach is present for like, it goes in 100, 180, 60, 40%. And it decreases month by month. So this is what our coaching looks like for the first 6 months when the individual is placed. And then after the 6 months is over, it goes to regional center, and that's when they transition if they would like to have, you know, coaching, and they coaching with the regional center. Another thing is some of these individuals do say that they do not want job coaching. So we have another program called direct placements, which basically means that they are just looking for a job and they don't need any support. So there's 2 programs we have in our company. So I hope that answered the question.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Gagan. That gives us a lot of valuable insight on job coaching. Renee, would you be able to also share information from your perspective on job coaching?
Yeah, not too much on it because, you know, with my job coaches, like you would have to go to like supported employment at my employer. We call it the Exceptional Building in Inglewood, Angela Carmona. But to even get a job here where I am, you have to start with the regional center and the intake process. Then that's forwarded to the Department of Rehabilitation, and then they refer to us, and we have this excellent employee specialist, Tommy Grimes. He like brings people here to me, and my job coaches do sit on the interview, you know, and then we like, you know, select from there. So, you know, it's like, yeah, we to work here at the West LA Federal Building, the job coaches will get a chance to talk to you. But, you know, it's a process where I just like receive like the referrals coming here from like, you know, Tommy at the Exceptional Building, and he brings like some pretty good people. But, you know, if anybody gets to that stage to get here, the job coaches will be a part of that interview discussion process. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So it sounds like the job coaches are part of the interview process, as well as helping out people with any types of job tasks that they might need while they're working. Thank you, Renee, for providing that information. Pam, could you please share with us also some information based on your perspective on job coaching?
Sure. All of the services that we provide include a level of job coaching. If someone would like job coaching, or it's identified that someone would benefit from coaching on the job. For direct placement, someone coming directly through Department of Rehabilitation, There is the short-term support option, which is short-term job coaching if somebody does need it. And of course that is time limited, but it's something that's available for people coming in through direct placement if they need it. We can do that for typically up to about 3 months if somebody would like that or need it. For supported employment, of course, there is ongoing job coaching, and for customized employment as well. You know, we like to really be very mindful of the use of job coaching because we don't really want to be impeding somebody's progress on the job. Sometimes some people don't want a job coach on the job because it's stigmatizing, or sometimes the employer doesn't want us there because it kind of gets in the way, or it might be a potential liability. So we're very mindful about how we provide that. We will typically go in, the vocational specialist will assist a job seeker if they would like or need the assistance on a job interview or negotiation with a potential employer. They will take care of that. And then if there are any job coaching or support needs, the vocational specialist will work in conjunction with the job coach to do a handoff depending on what support somebody might need. And we try our best to kind of back ourselves out as much as possible and connect the person who's working with the natural supports in the workplace so that they can really be most successful utilizing that support. But we do have some folks who we job coach ongoing, and we're doing that either in person or remotely, or we might meet with people off the job to address some issues that come up. So we get kind of creative about it.
Thank you. So it sounds like there's different options based on your preference and your need and your job. There's a lot of different options that can the service providers would be able to help you with. If I could ask just one more question, and I'll open it up to all the panelists if you want to answer this question. This is more related to if somebody, based on your experience, somebody that's in their last year of schooling, whether they're completing high school or they're exiting the school with a certificate of completion, during the current times, based on what you've seen and what you know about employment, what one advice would you give them if they're thinking about employment but are not sure, you know, what type of job they want to do? Is there any words of encouragement or advice that you can share that would be helpful for them? And it could be open to anyone that wants to share.
I'll start.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, you know, a plug for our organization, they should call like the Exceptional Children's Foundation. And we have many programs, you know, to assist in like your employment. You know, we have like, you know, resume assistance with your resume. And we also have culinary programs. We have like a janitorial curriculum, a computer curriculum. So you have like qualified staff to assist them in all of that and to prepare them for the work world. And, you know, we're in partnership with the regional center. So, you know, I don't think when I say this, I'm taking anything away from you guys, but I would, you know, encourage anybody, you know, getting out of high school, seeking employment, you can start at the Exceptional Children's Foundation.
Thank you, Renee. Anybody else would like to add to that information?
Yeah, I would like to add some things. We also, like at Pathpoint, we also have a lot of programs that can help students to be, you know, if they are really lost in what they really want to do. We have the Project Search program that is amazing, and it's in 1 year unpaid internship at a hospital. Of course, the things are looking different now. We are doing it remotely, but before it would be pre-COVID, it would be in person. So hoping things would go back to normal and, you know, these students will have a best experience. But my advice is just, you know, there's so many agencies that Westside Regional Center has partnered with. So whatever is best for them, and there's so many programs out there, and they would not be lost with the help of our programs that are out there. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just echo what the other panelists have shared and also encourage any students and families to find out what potential opportunities are available either through the school district, through transition programs or workability or other opportunities, whether it is an internship or apprenticeship or work-based learning, work experience, and work with Department of Rehabilitation and the regional centers to prepare as soon as possible during that, at least for that last year in high school. If anyone is interested, on our Easter Seal Southern California website, we have a page for our transition project, and there is a ton of information on that webpage, webinars, videos for planning for employment, information about benefits and working and planning for budgeting for independent living and working. So if anyone would like to access that resource, it's there. But again, you know, there are, like the panelists have said, there are a lot of different programs and services available based on what people want to do and where their interests lie. And I would say for anybody who's in high school and wanting to work, don't be afraid. I know it can seem overwhelming, but everybody can work and there's a job for everybody. And just to, you know, go out there and be confident and really look to the people who support you. And, you know, employment is there for you if you want it.
Thank you. Thank you all for those very wise words that you share. Yes, I wanted to add, if you are currently in high school, you're just starting out your journey towards employment, as our panelists said, there are a lot of different options. Westside, we were lucky enough to have 3 of our service providers that work on employment services during this webinar. We also have a ton of other employment service providers that are available to fit your specific needs. So there's something out there for you. And then you could seek the help of your service coordinator that can also help guide you towards an appropriate program or service provider agency that would be helpful to fulfill your employment goals. So with that said, I want to thank the 3 panelists. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us and speak to our community on the current pandemic and the types of supports and services and how they shifted. Thank you so much for your time. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So if there are no other questions, I think this will be the ending of our webinar. Thank you for the audience for attending, and we hope that you learned a lot and you were able to get a picture of how the current employment circumstances are. We hope that you found this helpful, and please join us for our next webinar that will take place next Wednesday at the same time, 10 a.m. That webinar will cover different topics. We'll cover navigating challenging situations in the workplace. So please join us for that. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful and lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you. You too. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.